Welcome back to the Human User Manual podcast. This is episode 2 with Robert Ellis. And today we're going to explore something that may surprise you. Episode 1, I spoke about the ultimate goal, reclaiming control of your mind. That is the heart of everything in this podcast. And it's where all this is headed. The journey to get there, however, is simple but multi-layered. When I say simple, I don't mean it's going to be easy. There will be challenges along the way. And you'll discover that the biggest challenge of all is you, your current mindset. That being said, I will point you in the right direction in order to help you overcome your challenges. So don't worry. But here's the truth. Before we can reclaim the mind, before we can talk about breaking free from manipulation and mastering your emotions, we need to pause and lay a foundation. Think of it like this: a building or a house. You don't start by building the walls or the roof. You start by pouring the foundation, something strong enough to hold everything else. Without it, the house collapses. In the same way, the tools we're about to discuss are the foundation for this journey. These tools are what allow you to take the concepts and strategies from this book and actually apply them in your daily life. And that's why, instead of diving directly into reclaiming the mind, I want to first walk through these fundamental practices. Things like goals, positive affirmations, meditation, and visualization. Because without them, you may understand the ideas intellectually, but you won't have the leverage to truly put them into action. With these tools, you'll have the rocket fuel to move forward with clarity, focus, and power. Today, we start with the first of these foundations, the power of goals. Now, you may think goals are simple, maybe even ordinary. But when you understand how they work, how they give your life direction, purpose, and energy, you'll see they're not optional. They're essential. Now, my book, The Human User Manual, is not about goal setting. But when you accompany what is taught in the book with goals, it becomes even more powerful. So let's dive into why goals are one of the cornerstones of this entire process. So, why do goals matter? I want you to picture this for a moment. You're standing at a harbor, watching 2 ships leave at the same time. One ship has a clear destination, Tokyo, Japan. The captain has coordinates locked into the navigation system. The crew knows the plan, and every decision is made to ensure they arrive in Tokyo. The other ship, on the other hand, has no destination, no plan, no coordinates. It just floats out to sea, letting the currents and the winds decide where it's going. Now, let me ask you this. Which ship do you think has the greatest chance of reaching some meaningful destination? Of course, the first one, the ship with the plan, the destination with a purpose. And what about the second ship? Where is it going to end up? Maybe it floats for months without reaching anything at all. Maybe it crashes into jagged rocks in the middle of the night. Maybe it lands in a harbor the crew never wanted to be in in the first place. And yet, that's how most people live their lives, drifting, hoping, leaving their future up to chance. Now let's take this to the skies. Imagine going to an airplane and buying a ticket for a flight. You walk up to the counter, hand over your money, and the agent says, "We can't tell you where this plane is going. We can't tell you when it's going to land. We can't even promise you that you'll land any place useful. But don't worry, you'll end up somewhere." Would you take that flight? Would you pay good money for that kind of uncertainty? Of course not. No sane person would. And yet, that is exactly what many people do. They go through life with no goals, no destination, no known purpose. They climb aboard the airplane of life with no destination in mind, and then they're shocked when they land in a place they never wanted to be. Do you see how dangerous that is? Do you see how insane it is to live like that? And yet, most of society is doing exactly that. Drifting, reacting, living aimlessly, wondering why they're stressed, why they're broke, why they're unfulfilled or disappointed. This, my friends, is why goals matter. On a journey of self-discovery, self-improvement, personal development, or spiritual development, they are not optional. They're not just nice to have. They are one of the cornerstones, one of the essential tools that gives power to everything else I'll be teaching you in this podcast. Now, let me pause and say something important. Well, everything I'm saying here is important, but I want to emphasize this point. If you don't have clear goals in your life at this moment, don't feel disappointed. Don't think that you have to wait until you have every detail mapped out before you can begin. You don't. You don't need to have everything mapped out or written down in order to start. It helps if you do, but it doesn't matter. Just start. Just get going. That's why I wrote the Human User Manual, because it doesn't just show you how to apply tools like goals, affirmations, meditations, and visualizations. It also shows you what to do if you don't even know where you're going or where to begin. If you feel lost, if you feel aimless, this book gives you the starting point, so you can begin right where you are with whatever clarity or lack of clarity you may have. So, goals are powerful. Yes, they act like rocket fuel, like a compass, like coordinates locked into a system. But if you don't know your own goals yet, don't worry about it. The tools in this book, the Human User Manual, will help you to discover them as you move forward. Think about it. Have you ever set even a small goal? Maybe to lose 10 pounds. Maybe to save money for a vacation or something else important. Do you remember that feeling? You had days when you didn't want to do it. You had days when quitting would have been the easier choice. the path of least resistance. But what kept you going? The goal, the destination, the vision of yourself on the other side. That provided the momentum and the motivation to keep you going. That's what goals do. Now imagine if you didn't have that goal. Would you have started? Probably not. Would you have pushed through any obstacles? Not likely. Would you have felt that spark of achievement when you crossed the finish line, when you stepped on that scale and saw the end result? Or make that final deposit? Probably not. Now imagine that across your entire life. What if you had goals in every area? Financial goals, health goals, relationship goals, personal growth goals, spiritual goals. What would that look like? What would that feel like? How motivated would you be in all those areas of your life if they all had goals that you were working towards? You'd wake up every morning feeling motivated, looking forward to taking that step towards whatever goal you are aiming at working towards on that day. Motivation gives momentum. Do the size of goals matter? No. Big or small, they all matter. What matters most is that you have a destination, that you're steering your life with intention instead of drifting aimlessly. Because otherwise, you're just drifting. And drifting only leads to disappointment, regret, or worse, ending up at someone else's destination instead of yours. What that means is that you will be completely open to mental and emotional manipulation in order to get you to work towards someone else's agenda instead of your own. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Robert, I don't even know what I want. I feel lost. How can I set goals if I don't have a clear vision of where I'm going or where I want to go? And I hear you. I've been there myself. That sense of standing in the middle of my life, feeling directionless, looking around and thinking, everyone else seems to know where they're going. Why don't I? But here's the truth. Not knowing what you want is not an excuse to do nothing. It is not a reason to stay stuck. If you don't know, then just pick something. Make it up if you need to. The simple act of choosing a direction is more powerful than waiting endlessly for clarity to fall out of the sky. Because it won't. Let me tell you a story from my own life. Years ago, I was in exactly that place. I didn't have a clear vision. I didn't have a big dream pulling me forward in that moment. Honestly, I felt stuck. Then I was reading a book on goal setting, and the author said something that hit me like a hammer. If you don't know what you want, choose something, anything. Just start moving. That sounded almost too simple to me, but it reminded me of something buried deep inside of me from a long time ago. When I was 6 years old, my parents brought my two brothers and I from Guyana, South America. At that time, it was considered a third world country. And they brought us to Brooklyn, New York. For me, that flight at 6 years old was a life-changing moment. I still remember sitting in that airplane, looking out the window as we climbed into the sky. I looked down and saw the earth shrinking beneath me. The people looked like ants. The cars and trucks looked like little toys scattered around the ground. And in that instant, a seed was planted in my mind. I thought to myself, one day, I want to be the one flying the airplane. It was a childhood dream, but at that time, it felt impossible. Where I came from, people didn't grow up to become pilots, not from a third world country, not back then. Flying wasn't even considered a realistic option. But that experience lit something inside me that I never truly forgot. Fast forward decades later, I was reading that book on goal setting. And when the author said, if you don't know what you want, just choose something, anything, and just start moving. That childhood dream came rushing back. I thought, all right, if I have to pick something, why not pick that dream I was carrying since I was a boy at 6 years old? Even if it still feels impossible. I decided to experiment. And so I made the decision. I would earn my pilot's license within 2 years. That was the goal I set. And it still felt like an impossible goal, but let's experiment. And that's what I did. Now, here's where it gets interesting. At the time, I knew I didn't have the income to actually afford flying lessons, let alone think about owning an airplane someday. But just having that goal lit a fire under me. It pushed me to get serious about my career. And within 30 days after setting that goal, I landed a better paying job and almost doubled my income. Within another 6 months, I got yet another job that increased my income by another 35%. Suddenly, what had once seemed like a childhood fantasy, something impossible for a boy from Guyana, South America, was now within my reach. With that higher income, I started my training, and before long, I had my pilot's license in my hand. And here's the fascinating part. Until that moment, I have never even thought about owning an airplane. That idea didn't exist for me. But once I achieved my license, my vision expanded. My next goal naturally became to own my own airplane. And I did. Later, I stretched even further and upgraded that single engine airplane to a twin engine airplane. Now pause for a second and think about this. What if I never made that decision? What if I had dismissed the childhood dream as impossible and just kept drifting? I probably would have stayed stuck in a low-paying job, frustrated, telling myself stories about why life never changes or never improves. I would have kept looking at airplanes in the sky, still wondering, what if? Instead of experiencing it firsthand from the cockpit. That is the power of setting goals. It doesn't just move you towards something, it changes who you are along the way. It creates momentum. It opens doors you didn't even know existed. It pulls you into a version of yourself you would never have met otherwise. And here's the real kicker. The process of pursuing that goal taught me more than just achieving it ever could. The license itself, the airplane, those were just symbols. What really mattered was who I became along the way, the habits I built, the mindset I developed, the confidence I gained, the way I proved to myself that I could set a target, stay the course, and win. So don't wait for clarity to magically appear. It doesn't work that way. Don't sit around waiting for some lightning bolt of inspiration to tell you exactly what your life's purpose is supposed to be. Choose a direction and start moving. Maybe it's something from your childhood. Maybe it's something that just excites you. Even if it feels impractical or impossible right now, it doesn't matter. Just start. Because once you take that step, the road will reveal itself. You can join me on Patreon, where I share exclusive guided practices, extended content, and early access to future episodes. It's not just about extra material. It's about being part of a community of people who are taking their power back together. Because at the end of the day, life without goals is drifting. Life with goals is destiny. And the choice, my friends, is yours. See you in the next one.